I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Welcome and thank you for participating in this pre-election candidate forum for the 2 vacancies on the Centreville Town Council. This forum is sponsored by the League of Women Voters of Queen Anne's County in collaboration with Queen Anne's County TV. We could not do this without them. We are very lucky to have Queen Anne's County TV. My name is Patricia Jameson, and I am the president of the League of Women Voters of Queen Anne's County. The League of Women Voters was founded on February 14th, 1920. Last year was the 100th celebration, and it was to prepare women to vote because we women hadn't had the right to vote before that. It is a nonpartisan organization whose membership is open to anyone at least 16 years of age. The founders believed that a nonpartisan league could provide education to the public to assure the success of democracy, and our democracy is so important. Our league, which has been active since 2004, supports forums such as this as one way to do that. To learn more about our league, go to our website, lwvqac.org, where you will find a video actually produced again in collaboration with Queen Anne's County TV, and it's really a very, very professionally done video. It's entitled The Vote for Women, and it overviews the history behind the founding of the National League, but it has a lot of information about our local league. So if you have a few minutes, it would be worth your time to take a look. Barbara Sharkey here has been working that website, and it looks very good right now. Thanks to Mary Campbell. Mary is right here. Mary is one of the original founders of the league back in 2004. A group of people who really had the foresight to ensure that there was something like the league to hold forums. And we're so grateful to those women who did, actually it was men and women who did it at the time. And Mary is the person who chairs our forum committee, and she made certain that the candidates received invitations, information, that the press was informed. She did the programs for tonight. She's also going to be the timer during the forum. A special thanks again to Queen Anne's County TV for producing this event and for all of you who are here participating in person. And also those who are participating by Facebook, because we do have people on Facebook, and some people are live streaming, and we have Ashley, who's there participating virtually. So at any rate, thanks to everyone, especially though to the candidates who are here, and to Ashley, for their willingness to serve our community and for being part of our forum this evening. At this time, I'm going to turn things over to Barbara Sharkey, who is our league's treasurer right now, who will introduce the candidates and moderate tonight's forum. Barbara, thank you.
Okay. Taking my mask off so I can talk. I just want to make sure that you all silence your cell phones or other devices before we get started. And welcome everyone also. This forum, as Pat said, is being videotaped and also live streamed by Queen Anne's County TV to their Facebook page and QAC.org live.
Barbara, you know what? I forgot to mention that Chris was going to say a few things to people who are coming in by Facebook. Chris, you want to give them a few directions?
Yes, for everyone who is out there watching on Facebook, if you do have a question for the candidates, you can type it in the comment section. Please limit it to just a short question. Please state your name and where you live. And please make it as a question of a matter of public interest and no personal questions. So once again, if you're out there on Facebook and you wish to make a question to submit here, you can do it in the comment section on Facebook.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, thank you. So the Centreville Town Council, you all know 3 candidates are running: Ashley Kaiser, Eric Johnson, and Tim McCluskey. Tim McCluskey is an incumbent. So the format for tonight's forum will be as outlined in the program. And I think, does anybody not have a program? Okay. So each candidate will have 2 minutes to introduce themselves, and then the candidates will answer the question they were given beforehand and is printed in your program. And for that too, they'll have 2 minutes each. At that point, the floor will then be open to questions from the audience. You will be given 45 seconds to pose the question, and there will be 1 minute for each of the candidates to respond. And then at the end, we'll conclude with closing remarks from each candidate, who will have 1 minute to say whatever they want to say at the end. We anticipate the forum will conclude by 8:30. And again, our timer, Mary Campbell, is sitting in the front row. She has a sign to give a 15-second warning when the speaker is approaching the end of their time. And then she will have a stop. When you see that red sign go up, that's it. I ask you to please hold your applause until the end of the forum to avoid using up the time, okay? So let's get started. So at the beginning, we drew numbers to determine who was going to go first. Whoever goes first for the opening statement will be last at the concluding statements. So that's how we've got this figured. And Ashley, you chose number 2. Could you hear me? I turned away from the microphone. Anyway, so the order of the first question, or the first where they're introducing themselves, is going to be Tim is going to go first, Ashley will be second, and Eric will be third. Tim?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you all today. I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to answer questions. Wanted to thank the League of Women Voters as well as QACTV. I've got many years of experience on the council. I've learned a lot about leading town government. Most importantly is how to build consensus and get things done. I'm running for re-election because I know how important it is for Centreville to have a member with deep experience on the council. When I first ran for council, I wanted to help make Centreville a more family-friendly and economically vibrant town. I pledged to upgrade our crumbling infrastructure, roads, sidewalks, underground water, and sewer pipes. I worked to make our town safer by working with State Highway to install a traffic signal at Northbrook, lowering speed limits, as well as ensuring that our police department is the best around. I've helped improve communication as well. I've worked extremely hard to obtain grant funding, which has actually improved our parks, downtown business facades, and stormwater systems. I'm deeply involved in the long-term planning and growth process for the town, having served on the Planning Commission for 2 years prior to being elected, and I now serve as the council liaison to the Planning Commission as well. During my time on the council, we have accomplished very much. Our financial audits have been stellar. We've upgraded many of our ancient roads and underground pipes. We've created annual events like the 4th of July Fireworks Family Fun Night, Drink Maryland, Centreville Day, the annual Fishing Derby and Outdoor Movie. We even have an Arbor Day celebration where we get the elementary school kids involved. Even during the pandemic this year, we've actually been able to safely hold these events. The next few years are going to be especially important and exciting as we navigate complex issues of growth and development. Going into this period, we need an experienced leader to remain on the council. It's wonderful that new people are bringing energy and new ideas to the town council, and I value everyone's voices. However, if I'm not reelected to the town council, the most experienced council member will have less than 1 year of municipal experience. Experience matters a lot in local government, and it's particularly critical this year, since we have a new town manager arriving in January. The institutional knowledge that I have will be needed to bring this new town manager up to speed. No other current or prospective council member has this knowledge. I'm also the only candidate who's been endorsed by all the council members. I'm asking you to re-elect me so that I can bring my experience to the table and continue to move Centreville forward. Thank you.
Okay, Ashley, you have 2 minutes.
Yes,
to
thank
introduce
you. And
yourself.
I apologize to all of you that I'm joining via Zoom. I am on a family vacation with everyone from my 1-year-old son to my 87-year-old grandmother. So just was not something that I could miss for any reason at all. Like they said, my name's Ashley Kaiser. I live on Green Street with my husband Terry and our 1-year-old son Zebulon. We love Centreville and are really happy to have made the decision to move back to the area. I grew up in Queenstown and am a graduate of Queens County High School. I'm an attorney and nonprofit professional. I currently work for a large national youth-serving nonprofit where I'm responsible for obtaining and managing over $50 million in government grant money. And so have a lot of experience with the government budgeting process and the way grants and pass-through money works as it layers down from the federal to the state to the local governments. Prior to my role in the nonprofit space, I was a contract and I know a lot of people think lobby, but everyone deserves an advocate, and I advocated for a lot of businesses and nonprofits, including municipalities. So I represented several municipalities, primarily in Prince George's County, but it gave me an interesting look into what municipalities need and how they can best have their voice heard in an affluent.
Yeah, with apologies, that would probably just be the signal strength coming from wherever she is. I've sent her a message to let her know she's breaking up. Hopefully she's still there. Accordingly, she's still online. She's probably going to try to log back on because it looks like she's now logged out. So.
Shall we go to Eric? Eric, you can introduce yourself. 2 minutes.
Yes, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Like Tim said, thank you to the League of Women Voters and QACTV for helping to put this together. I think it's such a great opportunity. I've had the honor of sitting in on one of these from your seats, so thank you all for taking the time out of your evenings to come. And for those of you that are at home dialing in, thank you for your time as well. I grew up in Centreville. I was one of 7 children, and we had moved from Arnold, Maryland when I was in 4th grade. So I did 4th grade through high school in Centreville. And I will never forget when we moved here. Everybody knew who we were because we were that family that had 7 kids. So we were notorious right away. I met my high school sweetheart who's here tonight with me. Thanks for your support. Jamie, we met in high school, went away to school, college, got a master's degree at the George Bush School of Government and Public Service. And after that, 9/11 happened, and I felt a call to serve, and went in the military, spent about 9 years doing that, and then I was in hospital administration for a nonprofit. So I've been in public service for about 20 years, and my job was cut at a time when healthcare was really struggling, as it still is today. And rather than find a job and move there, we decided to move back home, because this will always be home to us. And I got sick last year unexpectedly, and went through a really tough time where this community really rallied around me and my family. I felt thousands of prayers, meals were brought in, folks raised money to build a handicap ramp in front of my house. And now, a year plus later, to be doing so well, my wife and I prayerfully considered, what to do next, and this was it, the call to serve, to run for town council. And so I look forward to any level of service. Thank you.
Okay, Ashley, are you back?
I am back. I'm really sorry. I don't know what happened.
Okay. Well, we went on to, and Eric gave his introduction. Were you finished with yours, or did you have a couple more things to say?
I was almost done. Again, I'm really sorry that I'm not there in person to all of you. But hopefully this connection stays stable the rest of the time, and I'm excited to answer questions.
Great, because you're the first one for the next question. we drew straws, kind of, and we have an order, and you're rotating. So we're going now to the prepared question, which we gave to each one of you beforehand. And it is, on your priority list, what are the top 2 actions that the town council should focus on accomplishing? And you have 2 minutes.
Okay, great. So the first thing I think is a pretty big bucket that the town council should work to create a stronger sense of place in Centreville. And I think, we all know that Centreville is a wonderful place. That's why we all choose to live there. But there are things that can be done to create a stronger sense of place for residents and businesses. And there are a lot of wonderful annual events in town, but I would love to see something more regular. And I'm working with Eric and also a couple other residents on the idea of a First Friday celebration, like a lot of towns around the country have, and towns near us have, to give folks a reason to come in to the town center on Friday nights with their families, and creating events that are for all ages. my family and I spend a lot of time in Chestertown and Denton for both business and personal reasons, but there just is a really strong sense of place in those towns and a strong sense of coordination between residents and businesses. And so I think it needs to be a real priority of the town council to make sure that government and business and residents are all working together to build a cohesive feel, like a community feel for the town. So that to me is a major priority. And then the other is increased proactive communication. And I know that the town staff are all working very hard and doing everything that they can. But we really could use increased communication with residents and businesses, and for it to be more proactive, that folks shouldn't have to go out to the town to find out things. And if people reach out to the town and ask a question, and it's a question better suited for a state highway or better suited for the county, the town should still play a role in making sure that the right people at those entities are answering that. And so I think a real focus on communication and transparency would go a long way to building trust, and from trust we could grow more of that sense of place that I mentioned. So I want to be part of the town council to be part of building that sense of community for Centreville, and whether I'm on the town council or not, I'm committed to doing everything I can to build a sense of place. But I think it should be a key priority for the local government in any small town. And so sense of place and communication and transparency to me are the main priorities. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Eric, would you like me to repeat the question, or do you know?
No, ma'am, I'm ready.
All right, two top actions.
So I think this is a really good question, because we all have a lot of ideas, but knowing what our top priorities I think is critical. My first priority would be a two-part document creation. The first would be, I'd like to see a capital investment plan and budget projection that goes out at least 20 years or more. I think if we had a document like that, that it would allow us to sort of flatten our tax rate expenses and maintain that, and get to a point where maybe it's feasible to lower taxes at some point. I've toured the town's infrastructure. I did a windshield tour with our Director of Public Works and the town manager, and when I look at our roads that are sort of backed up on a list of things to be done, curbs and sidewalks that are not ADA compliant, we're not in a position to lower taxes right now. That's the hard reality, and I'm here to help say that. The current council has had a tough job to do. So I'd like to see that. The second document, as part of sort of this two-document set of priorities, would be a report card that would be issued annually to residents, to taxpayers, that would articulate each of the services that you receive, and on a per capita basis, how much is spent. So are you spending $500 toward the police department? And by the way, would there be another column that says, okay, how does Chestertown compare? How do other towns of a similar size compare? So that you get a feel for what your money is being invested in and the tough decisions that the council makes. The second thing would be continued expanded revitalization of downtown. I think that's going to be a theme from all of us tonight. I'd like to see incubator programs for entrepreneurs. I would like to see financial incentives, and there are grant programs out there that can help do this. But for magnet businesses to come downtown, how many of you are excited when you see Sugar Doodles and all those people and families in line? It's a beautiful sight. And finally, like Ashley said, actually, more functions. We are working on some events together. A number of us, I'm helping with Centreville Day, events like that, and I think the more we can put downtown, the more successful we'll be in revitalization.
Thank you. Tim, your two top actions.
Thank you. So the two most important actions that the town council should focus on in accomplishing: long-term planning for growth and long-range infrastructure improvements. These are not just my priorities, these are the council's priorities. I've spoken with the different council members, with all the council members, and these are the most important actions that we need to take right now. Why is that? In terms of planning for growth, two major subdivisions have recently applied for the planning process. These are among the last major parcels already in town. One is the Carter Farm and the other is the Turpin Farm. Together they're proposing more than 300 new housing units. Both have merits, both could be a great add to the town, but we need to ensure that these proposed developments add value to the town, not cost the taxpayers money, and be developed in such a way that our way of life is not negatively impacted. In addition, there are very complicated legal documents like public works agreements, critical area growth allocations that need to be negotiated, and I'm the only council member that has experience in doing those. We're also currently in the process of updating our comprehensive plan, which is the long-term growth for the town. This is a process of how we're going to dictate how we're going to grow over the next 10 to 20 years. Everything that happens in this town over the next 2 decades will be a result of this plan, so we need to get it right. Second priority, which is closely related to the growth issue, is infrastructure improvements. Our wastewater treatment plant, our spray release farm are nearing capacities. This means that all future growth, including any new subdivisions that are built, will require that capacity is increased. The town has received more than $4 million of stimulus money from the federal government, which has to be spent in the next 3 years. One of the ways we're allowed to use this funding is through improved infrastructure. So we have a huge opportunity right now, but it's going to take experience and a lot of effort to get it done. These are very complicated projects that require significant regulatory approval, and we've already started the planning process for this. These are my top 2 priorities, but they're the top 2 out of many. Fortunately, the town is able to do many things in parallel, so we can pursue those 2 priorities even while we continue to improve communication, add family-friendly annual events, apply for grants, and increase our economic development efforts. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Now we come to the part of our program where you all can take part. We're going to accept audience questions, and anyone who has a question that they would like to ask one of the candidates or all of the candidates, we ask you to come up to one of the microphones, either this one here, if you're on this side of the room, or that one on that side of the room. And we also will be accepting questions virtually, so Pat is monitoring with the help of Queen Anne's County TV, Chris. And we'll be, when we have a lull and can take another question, we'll be looking at the virtual questions. So questions may be addressed to all or just one candidate. Questions addressed to just one candidate may also be answered by the other candidates if they choose to. So when you come up, we ask you to identify yourself before posing the question and tell where you live. The questioner has 45 seconds to pose the question, and the candidates each have 1 minute to answer. We ask questioners to refrain from personal comments. Public exchanges such as this work best if a high level of civility and decorum are observed. Please don't use this as an opportunity to address specific personal situations, but rather ask questions of more general interest to the public. So, do we have someone who would like, come up? Yeah, speak into the microphone.
My name's Royce Herman. I live at 213 Hope Road in Centreville Heights. I am a small business owner. I have a small business up there, home base. My question, I spent 6 years as a retired economist. I spent 6 years on the Economic Development Commission in the county. And the one thing I noticed about Centreville is they tend to lag behind in business growth. And you're getting a lot of residential, which actually has a net cost to it. And my question is, if elected, I'll address this to Eric first. Do you have a plan to expand business growth? You have a nice big field up there in the south end of town. It's growing weeds and has been for some time. What's your plan to expand business growth in the town of Centreville?
I think that's a great question, Roy. The plan that I would have would be to continue on the successes and discussions that the council has had up to this point on different business opportunities at the intersection of 213 and 301. Rootsburg Road, I think there's a lot of opportunity there to attract businesses. I would be willing to roll my sleeves up and dig in and get involved with businesses that would be appropriate. I think none of us are interested in seeing large box stores come, but I think we need more than what we have right now. So definitely to develop those areas, I would be willing to write grants. I have a background in that and have already started looking up grant opportunities in this very area for economic development. If we fold in green initiatives, there's also an opportunity there to tap into some environmental funds as well. And these are things that the town has some success in, I think, and I think the sky's the limit on where we go from here.
Do you want to, would you like to respond?
I'd be happy to.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks, Royce. It's good to see you here again as well. So in terms of expanding business growth, I've been doing this for 12 years. When I started out on the council, we literally had 0 economic development efforts. I was one of the founding members of Centreville Alive, which ended up becoming Maryland Main Street, which, as you know, is focused on the downtown area. I've also fought for many, many years to actually have an economic development manager, and it took many years for the council to actually approve any dollars to do that. How do we expand business growth? We don't have weeds that are growing down in this business park. We actually have one of the most successful businesses that is expanding and is becoming one of the largest Queen Anne's County, definitely one of the largest Centreville businesses happening. It's called GTI. I helped write the legislation which enabled them to be down there, right? So how do you expand business growth? You recognize those opportunities where a business should be here and you help them out. Bull and Goat, for example, they're a great brewery and now a little distillery. They were not allowed to establish here in Centreville. I wrote that legislation to allow them to do that. So the other part is you got to focus on infrastructure. We can't have anything anymore until we figure out the infrastructure part. Thank you.
Ashley wants to.
No. Ashley, would you like to answer?
Sure. Thank you. So, my husband owns a business in town. He actually owns the strip center where Subway and Dunkin' Donuts used to be. And so, as you can see, we're struggling to draw tenants into that space. I think the town can be great to work with, but as Tim said, there's been a lack of investment in economic development. And so now we do have a part-time person, but that's really not enough if you're intending to try to attract businesses, whether it's to build new facilities or to fill vacancies in both retail and office space in town. And so I think we have to have more of a focus on economic development. I go back to what I said earlier about a sense of place. Businesses want to go places that people want to live, that employees want to live. My family work as realtors, and we're working with a few people who work at GTI who can't find anywhere to live. There aren't enough rental units in town. There aren't enough houses that are affordable for folks to buy. And so it's tough to attract large businesses. It's tough to attract economic growth when there aren't the other things there, the things that make people want to move to a place, that make people want to apply for a job in a place. And so I think it all goes hand in hand in terms of increasing that coordination between residents and businesses and the government, and just ensuring that there's economic opportunity, both from the business end and the personal end, to make people want to locate their families here. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Dana Anderson, 112 South Commerce Street. At a meeting in Symphony Village, money was asked to be taken out of the electric company fund. And the citizens were told that if it was okayed, then our water bills would not be going up. As we know, that's not true. We are now our bills are being really raised. And what can we do to keep the promise that was made, which I knew at the time that it was not true. So I think we need to go back to figuring out, we took our money that we shouldn't have taken because they didn't want to do a loan, but meanwhile, we're still paying for it.
Is this directed to anyone or?
Anybody.
Ashley, would you like to start with that?
Sure. So, yeah, the water bill situation and the increase is a lot. I mean, I think that everyone, even the current council, would say it is a steep increase. The infrastructure is in really bad shape, and I think that residents today are sort of paying the price for decisions that should have been made by councils past to fund repairs to crumbling infrastructure and to make sure that things were being done the way they should be done. Now, as the communication and transparency issue, that's got to be fixed. I mean, we can no longer accept as residents the government telling us one thing and doing another. And I think it's better, it would be better if we were just told up front, hey, we need this money from the fund and we're going to have to increase water bills because the situation is that dire. We all want to turn on our taps and have clean, potable drinking water come out. I think the key issue here and the key failing in the water project, the key failing in the budget there was just a lack of communication with residents, a lack of understanding at every level of what was going on and why. And so I can promise you that if I'm on the council, I will be available and I will communicate and I will answer your questions honestly. But I don't know that there's any walking back from this water bill issue with the infrastructure that we have in town right now. And that is because of things that should have been done 20, 30, 40, and more years ago. And we just have to make sure that we're doing better as we move forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
I'm happy to go again as well. So I was a proponent at that meeting, and I have always been a proponent at that meeting, that I did not want to raid that fund. So what actually happened, and I've also been somebody who has always said, we're not covering our numbers, we're not covering the costs on the water and sewer bills. I had to raise it before, and I thought it was enough, and it actually wasn't. And so for many years, I had been saying, we need to do this. The other council members would not listen, and it got worse and worse and worse. And so what was actually said at the Symphony Village meeting was that if we did raid that fund, the water and sewer bills would not go up to pay it back. It was not said that they wouldn't go up, because they needed to go up. And as everyone else has said, we are really in a dire situation. I think we've got a good handle on where it is now. We're delivering 147 million gallons of water, of potable drinking water every single year. All you do is turn the tap on and it's acceptable to drink. It's very hard to do that. We've got a very small user base. There's about, I think, 1,900 different houses and businesses that are getting that water. And so those costs going through all of the town are spread throughout all of that. Thank you.
Eric?
Yeah, so first question I have, just if I can ask the audience to indulge me by those willing to have a show of hands, how many of you feel that it's an incredibly emergent priority to replenish that fund? Just by show of hands. So a lot of folks see that as a priority. Some of the things that I would like to see us continue to do would be the process of swapping out the digitally read meters versus the manual. I think we need to allow for audits, and that's not to suggest that I think there's anything funny going on, but as I've gone around and introduced myself to folks in Symphony Village, Northbrook, other parts of our community, I have heard from more than 5 or 6 folks. So less than 10, I think it's maybe 7 or 8, but if it had only been 1 or 2, I would have probably brushed it off. But based on that number, there are folks who are saying, I've had relatives stay with me and my household tripled in size for a month, and the water bill didn't go up for that period of time. And then these folks left, and the several months after that, it went up by $100, that kind of thing. So I think we need to look at that. And finally, I think new developments need to pay their fair share. You know, our water sewer budget would normally be $3 million right now for FY22, but we have $2.8 million in rescue money, and so let's invest it wisely.
Okay, thank you. Any more questions?
Steve Klein, 200 Elm Street. The police department building is decrepit. The town hall building is also falling apart and needs probably major repair. And we have town staff spread all across hither and yon, lacking real efficiencies. So talk a little bit about what you would do to get our town staff in a modern space that fits the needs that everybody's talking about, because everything everybody's talking about requires a motivated and exceptional town staff, which we have and we ought to keep. So how would you address the space issue, maybe with an emphasis on creative solutions to that issue? Thanks.
All three. You're asking
Yes,
all
ma'am.
three?
Yep.
Eric, why don't you start this one?
So I think, hands down, if you go in the town hall and you see Miss Betty Jean, Miss Norma sitting near a bucket with a water leak, and I know it's a priority, so that's not an attack on Public Works, the town council, anybody, but these folks need to be in the same space, having those efficiencies that are gained by having all the town together in a multi-service center. But I think right now, if that was in the budget in the next 2 or 3 years with everything that's on the capital investment expense planning, if a new town hall from ground up were to be built, I think we would have a mutiny That's the feedback I'm getting from all the residents that I've talked to. I think it's still a priority. And I think right now in parallel, we have a Board of Education building that at some point will be emptied. And there's an effort afoot to save that structure. And I think the safest and most sound way to do that is to have it be fully subscribed. Maybe there's an opportunity for an interim town hall facility with space for incubator businesses programs and other tenants that are revenue generating. Thank you.
Tim?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that one as well. I think that the possibility, the potential of the Board of Education building is a wonderful one. There's a reason that the Board of Ed is wanting to move out of there because it's in really, really bad shape. So any revitalization of a building like that is going to cost a lot of money. But I think it's a fantastic idea. The town needs to do something. We own a property on Railroad Avenue. We actually put in some money in the budget this year for some planning purposes. There's enough property over there, and we've got an agreement with the developer who actually is required to put in all the public parking, that we actually could sell a pad site over there and get some money to actually help build a building. I'm not sure exactly where it's going to go, but we need to be creative and consider that. There might also be some property over where the police department is. There's an open piece of land that's over there that the town should investigate as well. I do want to say one other thing about the replenishment of the fund. The way that the budget works now is that fund will actually be replenished by about 2026, 2027. And so, you know, in terms of the meters, the way that meters work, water meters work, is that if they are old and failing, they actually give you less. They say that you're using less, not more. That's just a fact of the way that water meters work. They don't overcharge you, they actually undercharge you. And we're in the process now of replacing all of those with digital meters, which is going to save the town considerable money. Thank you.
Ashley, do you have comments on this?
Yes, thank you. And so, you know, I really agree with Eric that there would be a total mutiny if we were to say, let's, you know, build a town hall tomorrow, given the situation with increased taxes and just where the economy is right now. But the town hall is a mess. I mean, there is water leaking. The stains on the ceilings in there are disgusting, and it's not a place that staff should be asked to work. And so I think we need to be creative in the interim and the long term. Look at potential of shared space with the county. Look at potential of, you know, using some of the vacant space that's in the downtown area. I don't like the idea really of town hall leaving the downtown area. I think that's part of what makes a small town, and that the town government should be really in the fabric of that historic downtown part of our community. And so I would love to see us find a way to make something like that work. I totally understand that revitalizing the Board of Education is going to cost an absolute ton of money. But I think it's something that the county needs to take a long, hard look at. And if they knew that something like Eric said, incubator space for businesses, town offices, and others were going to take advantage of that space, then the investment in the revitalization might be worth it. And so I think we have to really put our heads together with the state and the county to see what works. But it shouldn't be an option that staff just continue to work in what, quite frankly, is probably quickly becoming unsafe conditions. And so would really want to think about the ways that we can find, you know, opportunities to use space in existing county buildings, for example, because there's no reason for us to reinvent the wheel, especially in the short term. And so, you know, I would love to be part of finding the creative solutions there.
Okay, thank you. She can't see this. Ashley, can you not see when Mary holds up the stop sign?
I'm sorry, I
Can
will
you-
keep a closer eye out for it. If
That's
there's
okay. In all fairness, at the beginning or before it started, I had an opportunity to talk to Eric and Tim and tell them how this was all going to go and explain the timer and everything. And Ashley wasn't online yet, so she didn't hear all that. So I could tell her now, watch for Mary. If she holds up the red sign, that
I
means
will.
stop.
I'll do better next time, I promise.
Okay. Anybody have another question? Come up, gentlemen. Oh, okay, well, both of you come up and. You'll be next.
I'm Heath Johnson, 216 Frederick Drive. I just turned 18. This will be my first year voting. And I just had a question. I was wondering, I did just finish school with Queen Anne's County High School, and I know that we have a lot of students in Centreville, and I know that a lot of kids live in Centreville, but I barely ever see any when I'm in town. And I was wondering if anybody had any plans or ideas to get the youth more involved and get the youth something to do in town, because I tend to not have much to do around here.
And is this directed toward anyone?
This is directed to all three.
Okay. Tim?
Yeah,
You had
I'm
to
happy to
start it
answer it.
first, yeah.
You know, Heath, I remember a couple of years ago, you came into a council meeting and you said, we'd love to have a skate park. There used to be a skate park in town, and it actually got destroyed, and the town got rid of it. When I actually got on the council, skateboarding was illegal in town. I mean, can you believe that? Skateboarding was illegal in town. I wrote the ordinance to remove that, and we actually did. So while you may not see kids skateboarding in town, I see them all the time. I know that my kids do as well. One of the other things that's coming, and it's coming pretty soon, and it's right behind us here, is the YMCA. The YMCA is going to be a fantastic improvement to this town. I have been working literally on getting this YMCA going for the entire time that I've been in the town. We were very close several years ago that the county commissioners pushed it off, and before you know it took another 7 years. So the YMCA is going to be a fantastic addition when it actually does come. You're going to have kids from the middle school and from the high school. If you go down to Easton, you'll see it, right? The middle school and the high school, they funnel right over there after school. There's going to be an indoor pool. There's going to be an outdoor pool. There's also going to be an adult center there as well. And there's going to be a business incubator. It's really going to be great. Thank you.
Eric, how about you?
So full disclosure, that's my son. And I didn't know that he was planning on asking a question, but I think it's a good one, and I just want to thank him and anybody else in the audience that is close to that age, because you know, that's our future, you know, our 18-year-olds, and so he'll be voting for the first time, and that's exciting. I'm so excited about the YMCA, but I also think that there are some great opportunities for downtown. I had the opportunity with my wife to own Johnson's Game Vault, and as you all know, business success hinges on location, location, location. And we weren't in the best location in terms of foot traffic, and the road project was going on. So that combined with then the pandemic didn't exactly help things. We have an online presence, but our plan is to actually look at a different business model where we start a nonprofit and look at a location like the Lion's Den, or when the YMCA is built, the current YMCA location, to have an arcade, a safe place for kids to hang out, have a burger and a hot dog, play video games, play chess, whatever. So that's my suggestion.
Okay, Ashley, how about you?
Sure, thank you. So I work in youth development, and so totally agree that there needs to be more for kids and teens especially to do. And what the science, I guess, for lack of a better word, says about how teens truly want their time occupied is with access to economic opportunity and workforce development services. And so certainly they want to have fun. Totally love the idea of an arcade or other things that kids can do, but I want to make sure that the town of Centreville is offering opportunities to connect teens that are interested in building that economic opportunity with businesses and with other teens with that same interest. And so when I was in high school at Queen Anne's, not to sound like a total nerd, but I ran the teen court program at the state's attorney's office and loved it. And you know, I'm an attorney today, totally tracks back to that experience, right? And so I think not only do we need fun things to do, like skateboarding and arcades and all of that, but we need to make sure that we're connecting teens to economic opportunity to make them want to live here and stay here and come back here. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we have another question now coming up.
My name's Trip Callahan. I'm a retired farmer from Bruceburg, but I have something that's very important to the town, I think, and it's already been mentioned. A group of former students of the Centreville High School, which is where the Board of Ed is now, we're very concerned about the uncertainty of what the county is doing there or planning to do, and we want. We've made a resolution that we want to put before the county commissioners sometime in the next couple months, if we're lucky, and we're trying to get signatures to support it. What we're trying to do is get the county in the next budget cycle to appropriate money to fix the outside of the building. And any of you who are interested, Scotty and I will be out in the hall when you get done. We'd love to talk to you. My question is, would you, as a member of the town council, be supportive of our resolution or not?
Okay, I guess Ashley, do you want to start with that?
Sure. Trip, it was great when I got to speak to you before I left town, and when I get back, I would love to sign your petition there, because I think the county absolutely needs to take a look at putting investment into revitalizing that building. I can't imagine town, that part of the town without that building there, and you know, I know many others feel the same way, and so I'm very supportive of the resolution. I'm very supportive of the county taking a really long, hard look at taking care of that building and at asking the state for investment in making that happen. And so, yes, you have my support.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm happy to go. Trip, again, I remember speaking with you on the phone, and I did provide my support on that. That corridor, the Chesterfield corridor, is one of the most important viewscapes that we have. And I think keeping that building, there's a lot of people that we know that went to that high school, keeping that building, making it look good, and having something in there is extremely important. I would turn to the old Centreville Armory, right? The Wye River Upper School came in there, and I was on the planning commission when they were going through that process, and we needed to help them, and the town council was able to help them do that, and it took a lot of time and it took a lot of money, and I was there to help go through that process and guide them through the planning process so that they were able to not only revitalize the property, but they actually did an add-on. They had to add an elevator, and today it's a fantastic school, and it's a great add to our town, and that's the kind of thing that I would continue to do if you reelect me. Thank you.
Good. Eric?
So I too enjoyed a conversation with Trip over email, and I appreciate you coming out tonight and asking this question of all three of us. I actually signed that petition at the 4-H fair with Scotty McClashin, a real good mentor of mine and an institution in and of himself. And so I think that if that building is to be successful in its existence as part of Chesterfield's landscape, it needs to be fully subscribed. I've talked about that. And so I think anything that we can do as a town to support that initiative. And I think more important than fully subscribed is there needs to be revenue generating functions in that building. And I don't think that's an impossibility. And finally, I would suggest naming rights. That's something that I think we sometimes forget about institutionally, that there are folks that have money that wouldn't mind having a legacy for a family member, maybe somebody who has passed on that was a student at that school, to name a floor, a room, you name it. And those are opportunities to raise money philanthropically.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. Yes.
My name is Chip Kugel. I'm from Easton. If you're wondering what the hell I'm doing here, I will be following in Steve Wall's footprint as the town manager come the 6th of January. So as I've been going through the transition books, the economic development plans, and all the interesting pile of pamphlets that I've been given, I've seen a lot of opportunities and a lot of challenges. And one of the challenges I see is retaining and hiring town staff, not just in the town hall, but for DPW and other things. When you look at what we're paying personnel, you're looking at what Walmart's paying, what Target's paying, and that they're offering college and other things like that. What would be some plans from the three members here tonight that are running for council to help train and retain and pay town staff?
Eric, would you like to start with that?
Yes, I think that's an excellent question, and I'm a big fan of you get what you pay for, and I think our staff in some areas are paid well, and others I think there's definitely an opportunity. I had an opportunity. I've met with each of the town department managers to really sit down for a couple hours and understand what their life is like each day. And just as one example, because I know I have limited time, when I sat with Kip, our Public Works Department leader, I did some quick back-of-the-envelope math, to show that the amount of money that we spend to put our public works folks, if they're brand new, through school, getting a commercial driver's license, the training, you name it, only to have them be sniped away by Anne Arundel County. So if you look at what they're making and say what Anne Arundel pays, just some quick back-of-the-envelope math, I could see an opportunity for thousands of dollars in savings. So I would like to see desk audits done, and that sounds scary, but just really sitting down and understanding what folks do to see if it's fully captured in their job description. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I've been on the council for a while, and it has been literally a revolving door. I have begged for years and years and years through other council members to increase compensation, to do more for the employers, for the employees. We tried to get the police pension plan for many, many years, and the council shot it down. Thankfully, this new council of 5 has really worked very hard. We had salary studies. We increased the police compensation. We actually were able to get into the police pension this year as well. Again, I want to thank my fellow council members for having the foresight to doing that. Right now, for the first time in a very long time, we've got a full police department. And I credit that to the increased compensation and the other benefits, including the pension that we have. We have also done a salary study where we have increased the pay for all of our people. The other part is investment in capital. We have put things off for so long. One of the things we have is we want our public works people to get a CDL license. Well, the dump truck that we have for them to drive this, to get their CDL license, it's so broken down that it won't pass inspection so that they can't go practice on it. So thankfully this year we've put that money in the budget to allow that to happen. And I want to thank the council for doing that, and I think we're going to need to continue to do that as well. Thank you.
Okay. Ashley?
Sure, so I'm admittedly not an expert in the retention of government employees, and I'm not going to pretend that I am, but watching as my husband has run his private business over the last couple of years and how difficult it has been to hire and retain staff, and totally understand that problem that all businesses and entities have with when you train someone, the cost of someone leaving is so high. And so we do have to factor in that it's more expensive to replace someone than to keep them, and that you very much do get quality staff with quality pay. One of the first things that came to mind for me was that the town hall and the way it looks, it's not somewhere that people would want to work. And then, Tim tells that story about the dump truck. I totally agree. We have to give people a reason to want to work here. And so just improved quality of life in town, but improved infrastructure in town would go a long way, I think. And, Chip, I would love to be working with you to find solutions to these problems. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all. So, any other questions? Come on up. If you have a question, if you want to just stand up while the other question is being, so that we know that you're next, would be helpful.
Hi, thank you. Steve Layden, 309 Windsor Avenue. I'm just looking around the room, and I don't see any people of color in the room, but our town is not homogeneous. So I'm just curious, I'd like to hear from each of the candidates how they might reach out to get more involvement from other members of the community that maybe are not involved now.
Okay. Tim, do you want to start with you?
I think it begins in creating and building those relationships, right? Clay Washington, for example, runs the Kennard Center. We've worked with him in the past, and we also work with volunteers as well. And I always reach out as much as I can to every member of the community to actually encourage them to actually be more of a part of the community. One other thing that I wanted to add on to was a question before about a capital improvement plan. We actually do have a capital improvement plan. It's a 10-plus year plan. Every year it's gotten delayed because we haven't actually done anything. So finally this year we decided that the capital improvement plan is something we're going to do. We're still so far behind that it's going to take a while for us to catch up.
Okay, Ashley, let's let you go second this time.
Sure, thank you. I think that's a great question. And as I've been knocking on doors around town, I've been really encouraged by the amount of diversity in town that is sometimes not so obvious, because if you do look at a meeting like this, you don't see it. And so I do think we need to do more to encourage folks. I also think we need to do more to have events that give people a reason to come out to meet their neighbors. I have met so many wonderful people right in my own neighborhood through doing this campaign that I did not know before. And that as I'm spending my time in other towns around us and seeing their diverse and vibrant communities, there isn't so much to participate in the diverse and vibrant community that exists in Centreville. And so we have to give folks a reason to spend time in town. We have to give folks the communication that they need to plan to be at events. And we also have to, I keep coming back to economic opportunity, but we have to make sure that we're incentivizing businesses, that we're helping with small business grants, that we're working with MBE contractors and those sorts of things, just to ensure that we're doing everything we can for our diverse community. Thank you.
Okay. Eric.
So I'm glad this question was asked, and I am very fortunate that I had a few folks that are persons of color who actually asked if they could join my campaign team. And they're all dialing in from home right now because that's easier, and I respect that. But something I have found, and they've given me a lot of feedback from their community in particular, is they don't necessarily feel like they're approached. And when I've gone knocking on doors in parts of our community that are a higher concentration of folks of color, it really saddened me when I had somebody say, "You are the first person in 15, 20 years that has ever knocked on my door and introduced themselves and asked for my vote." And so it's something that's important to me. I think there's some opportunities for the town to continue, so I want to give credit to the council, continue support of the African American Heritage Center. If you have not had a chance to go and see that, you really do need to understand our history. Most folks don't know that the Eastern Shore were some of the last counties in all of America to desegregate after Brown versus the Board of Education, and that's part of our history. We should understand that.
Thank you. Okay, any other questions?
Barbara, we do have one. that's
Okay,
been-
we have one coming in from
Right, this is-
Facebook. Pat,
yes,
will
and
you read
This is
it?
from Justin Davis, who lives in Graysonville. As someone who does
Can
not...
everybody hear?
Let me, all right, it's Justin Davis, and he lives in Graysonville. As someone who does not currently live in Centreville, but is looking at property there, what would you say to entice me to move there? Are there any programs being discussed or in place to make purchasing a home there more attractive?
Eric, would you like to start with that?
Sure. I think it's summed up in the fact that I grew up here, my roots are here, and after being away in the military, spending time in Afghanistan, going that far around the world to be able to come home, I mean, that's it right there. I could probably stop talking. I'll just add to that part of the home is the smallness of our community, the tightness, the fact that on our Facebook groups, yeah, we have the same snarky stuff that gets on all our nerves that happens on every small town's pages in this country. But if you put all that aside, we have a community that prays for one another, that brings in meals to folks that they don't even know. And so that is a way, I think, to continue to entice folks. There's a lot of folks that want to come home here, and there's folks throughout the county. I would love to look in more detail at programs designed to financially incentivize folks to relocate here. Thank you.
Ashley, do you have any?
Sure. So, yeah, everyone's moved to Centreville. No, but it's a great town. I moved away. I lived in Annapolis for almost a decade. I lived in Miami Beach, and I came home for the summer while I was living in Miami and told my husband, I'm not going back. I'm staying right here at home. And so, I love it there. I think, like Eric said, that small town feel where people do take care of each other. When I had my baby in the middle of a pandemic, my neighbors reached out immediately. How can we help? Can we bring you food? What can we do for you and your family? And there's just something wonderful about living in a place that you still can go next door for a cup of sugar. And, I just love it here. And I think anyone could find their place and their home and a sense of belonging in Centreville. And so you should ditch Graysonville tomorrow and move on up.
Okay, Tim.
Yeah, so I'll say in 2005, when my wife and I were taking a tour of the Eastern Shore, we had no plans to move here. We literally stopped at Hayden's Alley, if everybody remembers that, for coffee one morning. We saw the town square, literally fell in love, and we were living in Boulder, Colorado. We're very, very happy out there. And I said, we're moving. And within 3 months, we didn't know anything about Centreville, but we just felt that it was such a great place, we moved here. In terms of reasons to come to this town, I mean, just look at our downtown, right? We've done so much. We've got great events. We're continuing to do more. Look at the wharf, right? I mean, the wharf was neglected for 25 years. We've gotten almost over $1 million to revitalize that wharf. We've got a fantastic waterfront. We've got brand new parks that are down there. We're working on trails. I mean, there are so many great things that are happening in Centreville right now, and it's just going to continue to happen as well. The housing market, I'm not a realtor, but the housing market, houses are gone literally before they even come up for sale. So it's a great time to be here. It's going to be even greater. We get the YMCA. It's going to be a fantastic place for families, even more so than now. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, Mary, come up to the microphone. I'll find you. Oh, yeah. That's all right.
Okay, I'm Mary Campbell. I don't live in Centreville, but outside of Centreville. And Tim, you said that Chesterfield Avenue is a viewscape. Every time I leave Centreville, I go out Chesterfield Avenue. And I come to Centreville all the times where I grocery shop, pharmacy, the whole thing. I have watched Judge Carter's house absolutely become, it looks like you're getting ready for Halloween is what it is. There are vultures all over the top. There are vines growing over the door and the windows. And isn't there some sort of a law that you have to keep your house to a minimum standard and not let it just completely fall apart? Somebody owns it. Somebody's probably about to make a lot of money off of it if you're talking about development. So that's my question to all of you. What can you do? Is there help?
And would you like to start with that?
I'd be happy to, yep.
Okay.
So there's a very fine line between, the town having the ability to do something and not do something. The town has no ability because there are birds laying, on top of a property. I agree that that something needs to be done. For the first time in many, many years, we actually have put money in the budget for code enforcement. We typically, we operate on a complaint-driven environment, right? We don't have the ability to go out and proactively do these things. But when we do get complaints, we do go out there and actually take care of them. The Carter Farm development is one that's getting very close. I think it's going to be a fantastic improvement to this town. The grass is cut. I agree the trees need to be trimmed and some other things need to be done there. But it's very difficult. There was a house over on Kidwell for many years, literally for almost 30 years. Every time the town would take enforcement, they would go to the judge and the judge would let it go. And it took years and years and years. So this year we've got in the budget, we've got a code enforcement officer. And so not only that house, but other houses that are falling apart will also be dealt with.
Ashley, do you have anything to comment on?
Yes,
To this
so
question.
Tim can tell you as a sitting member of the council that I am one of those complainers about code enforcement issues, and was so thrilled when Tim told me several months ago that we would have code enforcement because it's unacceptable. It's unacceptable the way some buildings look in town. It's unacceptable the blatant violations of the town code, but in a lot of cases you can't blame folks because people don't know what it is. The communication isn't strong enough for folks to understand what the requirements are. I live on Green Street in Providence Farms, and the way that Dollar General building looks is deplorable. There are literal trees growing out of the gutter. The fact that we allow any home or business to get into such a dilapidated state doesn't really give you a great sense when you drive into town from any direction of, hey, this is where I want to be. And so if I'm on the council, trust me, I will continue to be a complainer, but I'll respond to your complaints as well and make sure that things are being dealt with.
Okay. Eric.
First, I want to applaud the current council for the allocation of funds in the budget for code enforcement. I just want to echo what's been said and just add to that. We all have an opinion, of the properties that are in disrepair. The building that our store was in at the corner of Water and Liberty Streets, hopefully everybody's noticed that there's a new owner who has invested a lot of money and labor into getting that painted and the apartment building behind it. But we have properties like the one at Commerce and Water Street, catty corner from Edwards Pharmacy, that when I've asked about it, I hear that the building doesn't meet code in some respects. And so where was code enforcement for something like that? Ideally, we don't get to a point where codes haven't been enforced and now the building is potentially condemnable. And I'm not saying that building is condemnable. I don't know the full details, but that's what I've heard. So I'd like to explore more of that effort and whether it's increasing funding in that area, but also re-looking at the codes to see how they're written right now. Maybe they need to be updated more. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the audience? None at all? Well, then we can go to the ending statements if you are ready for that. The candidates can have a closing statement of 1 minute each. Because we're reversing our opening statements order, Eric goes first, and then Tim, and then Ashley. So Eric, your closing statement.
So I had the honor of meeting a former president when I was at Washington College, George H.W. Bush, and one of the things that I learned from him personally was that public service is a mindset. It's not about being in government. It's not about being elected. If you can put your head on your pillow at night and feel that you have given more to the world than you have taken back, that's public service. And I've tried to live my life that way, and that was instilled in me growing up as one of the 7 Johnson kids on Chesterfield Avenue. So I have a life of public service. It's important to me. I have skin in the game locally. I have been a business owner. I raised my family here now. I was on the Council of 5 committee to move from 3 to 5. I've been involved with the Centreville Day committee well before I had any idea I was running for something. I've been a Christmas parade judge. I'm hoping to do that again. It's a hell of a lot of fun. And so I'm retired now, so I've got time on my hands, and I want to be another full-time councilman. I know this young man is that level of effort, and so I want to do that. Thank you.
Okay. Tim?
I love this town, right? I love the job of being on the council as well, and I've put everything I have into serving this town for the past 12 years. I love solving complicated problems and improving people's lives. I love looking at the accomplishments that we've made together, how far we've come, and I really love looking to the future and knowing that if I'm reelected, we can continue to make this town great. If you're proud of Centreville and you want it to continue, show the community how you feel and reelect me on October 4th. If you think that working with State Highway to reduce speeding and ensuring that the police will show up quickly when needed is important, I'm asking for your vote. If you think that maintaining the infrastructure assets of the town are important, I'm asking for your vote. If you think it's important to continue raising millions of dollars in grant funding to improve the town amenities, I'm asking for your vote. If you think recognized efforts in economic revitalization, such as Maryland Main Street, $250,000 in facade improvement grants, and $147,000 in economic relief for struggling businesses are important, I'm asking for your vote. I have worked each and every day on my time in the council to improve this town. I'm raising my family here. I'm proud of what we've done with the help of my colleagues on the council, and I'm proud of where we're headed. And I'm asking for you to re-elect me so that I can continue to provide my experience to move this town forward. Thank you.
Ashley?
Thank you. I really just want to thank everyone who's there in person and those that are watching online or on QACTV, because having folks that care about this town enough to listen to a candidate forum is one of the most important things to making our town as successful and wonderful as it can possibly be. So thank you. You know, I would really appreciate your support on October 4th. I think, like Eric, I served on the committee to expand the council to 5 members. I think it's important that our council be reflective of our community, that it be full of diverse views and opinions and people. And I would be honored to serve this community. I would be honored to be part of the town council. And when I get home from vacation, I can't wait to meet more of you at your doors. And just thank you so much for your time, and I would appreciate your vote. Thank you.
That concludes the forum tonight, and I want to thank you for being such a great audience, and I want to thank our candidates for being such great candidates. It's going to be hard to make a decision, I'm sure, and especially Queen Anne's County TV for all their support, and we couldn't have done this without. All right.
Great. Excellent.